Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast, and we're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable and confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And you know what? If you've ever wanted to know what it was like to have a really great military service that for your country and also be able to move from that to serving local communities through real estate investing and beyond, then this is the conversation you're going to want to listen to the absolute very last word. Because today's guest not only had after 6 years in the U.S. Army, decided to also spend 2 years, I say spend 2 years, working for a Big Four accounting firm. Maybe he'll tell us a little bit more about that. Most importantly, he's also been able to find a passion for helping and improving people, processes, organizations, and communities. He's also the founder of Invest DGP. And welcome to today's show, Patrick Menefee. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Billy. Appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Patrick. I'm definitely looking forward to that. And before we even get started, man, I mentioned one of the things that you spent 6 years in the U.S. Army. I'd like to thank you for your service to the country. So thank you very much before we even get started.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. So listen, Patrick, we have a format here. Really like to ask kind of the same 2 questions for every single guest that's on the show. So since you're a guest, you know what? We're going to treat you with the same hospitality. So, Patrick, help us understand, where are you located in the United States?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. So Charlotte, for anybody who doesn't know, East Coast. If you take Atlanta to the south and New York to the north, it's close in between.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thanks for helping us get to know a little bit, get moving closer and closer to the southeast of the United States. So fantastic. Appreciate that. And then, you know what? We also love to know positivity stuff, right? And so can you help us understand what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, it's going to extend a little bit past 24 hours.
That's fine.
I can break the rules.
Yeah, go ahead. We like you. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And we'll get into the backstory, but I'm from Minnesota. In the this past weekend, I just got back last night from Minnesota. One of my good friends from high school got married. And so got back there with my girlfriend who had never been to Minnesota before. She's from here in North Carolina. So spent the whole weekend out there showing her where I grew up, showing her home, showing her everything, and seeing a bunch of old friends. And at the end of the day, the old Southern girl is now interested in getting a lake house in Minnesota at some point. So that was mixing real estate, home, and the love life. It's a perfect combination.
Hey, there you go, man. Congratulations, Patrick. So I'm sure it was a great time being able to show your girlfriend where you're from. I know I did that also being a fellow Midwesterner. I had a chance to go back a couple years ago and show my wife who's here from Barcelona, and it was a great time. It was a great time. So fantastic. So listen, I mentioned a couple of things at the top of the show, but I always love for you to be able to share, kind of help us understand, Patrick, what are some of the different decisions you've made and things that have happened to you to help you get to this point in your real estate investing journey?
Yeah. So I guess taking it all the way back, when I was a kid growing up, my mom was a very successful Mary Kay sales director. And that was all I saw growing up. I mean, and my dad he was in sales, but my mom had the very entrepreneurial vibe, and that's everything that I saw. She was at home. She worked from home in her office. Now that I look back on it and I see more and more of it, I realize, and I have such an incredible respect for the business that she was building right under my nose, and I didn't even realize it, or I didn't realize the extent of it. But that kind of got me started early, got the bug. I helped her. My first business was when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, making training CDs for her. I had it's like a little manufacturing assembly line. I would make the CDs, burn them. I'd put the labels on them. I'd put them in the sleeves, and I'd send them off. And I'd go pedal my bike down to the bank and drop off my check after I got $2.50 in the mail. So that kind of
awesome.
That started early between that and garage sales, going and selling stuff that we never used. And I didn't really ask permission. I just started selling things at a garage sale. So that was maybe not the best choice, but
these things happen.
That's it, right? But then moving on from there, I mean, that was the lifestyle that I saw from my mom, the lifestyle that she provided for us as a family. That freedom was something that kind of carried with me. So I went to school. I joined the Army, as you mentioned. I did ROTC in college, and I spent 6 years active duty after that. I spent a lot of time there focusing on, aside from the military, I spent a lot of time thinking about my financial future, financial freedom, how I wanted to get there. I didn't have any type of specific business at the time, but I managed my own portfolio because I just wanted to be in control of the money that I had. I wasn't too interested in dumping my money into a mutual fund or into a 401k for someone else to manage. I wanted to personally, and if I made more, amazing. If I didn't make as much as, the index, then it's all right. I was the one that was managing and I had the potential. So that kind of, as I got closer to the end of the Army, I stumbled onto Bigger Pockets when I was actually on my way back from a deployment in Kuwait. Started learning a little bit more about real estate, didn't pull the trigger for a while. And then after I got out of the Army, I transitioned that's when I moved from Kansas out to Charlotte, North Carolina. When I transitioned, I left the Army, started a job working for a consulting firm, one of the big four. And so I went from the Army to traveling on a weekly basis. So Monday through Thursday, I spent in a hotel room, spent all Monday morning on a flight, Thursday evening on a flight. And it really, you kind of have two options at that point. You either, you're just all in on the job and you are, when you're on the flight, you're sleeping or you're watching a movie, you're relaxing. When you get back to the room, you're relaxing or you're building something for yourself. And that was when I started getting really active, started getting my mind right, starting to read a lot more books, read a lot about business and about real estate, and really devoted all of my time to that. And so it was about a little over a year and a half ago, I bought my first house, my own primary residence, used the VA loan. I actually got a check at closing, which was a cool benefit. And then 6 months after that, I bought my first rental property. And since then, it's continued to grow. We can talk more about it at any point. But since then, I now have 21 rental units, and I've got 9 properties. And I'm also starting to flip properties now as well. So once I realized what I wanted to do and I started getting committed to it, it was no holds barred, just going after it. So and now I'm getting, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago to you before we started the show, getting ready to start, or hopefully by the time this podcast airs, I'll be out of my job. So transitioning out and making real estate full time, and I'm incredibly excited about it. So.
All right, fantastic. So we're excited for you as well. And yes, by the time this goes live, your secret will be out already. So, which is good, which is fantastic. And look, so you've been on a really, if you started at 10 and 11, you were, burning CDs and creating a business out of it, and going from there to military to one of the big four, and then really right now finding your groove in the real estate space. So a couple of things that you mentioned that I'd like for us to maybe unpack. So, what was it that made you say, you know what, I actually want? Because you talked about reading the books and stuff like that, but why real estate and not starting your own business, right? And I say starting your own business, meaning coming up with something new that's not real estate, because you'd already seen that from your mother's influence in your home.
Yeah, it's interesting because I went through a couple of different things. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what is it that I want to do. I always had aspirations and I always knew that I was going to be successful. It was just a matter of figuring out how. I think, and I did a little bit with some of the multi-level marketing, and just because I just had that vibe and I wanted it. They weren't a good fit at all, which is why I'm not anywhere close to that now. But that being said, I think what I saw was two different things, two different ends of the spectrum. One was you take something like one of those MLMs where you plug into an organization and you're essentially plugging into something that's already there, and you're building something, but you're building something that already exists. On the flip side, the very far end of the spectrum, starting a new business of my own altogether, I'm not the most creative person in the world. I can be if I have, it's basically if I have a structure, if I have something to go towards, I will figure out any creative path to get there. Mm-hmm. But I'm not great at figuring out, like painting a mountain. I'm great at figuring out how to get to the mountain. But so that was why real estate was so great. I can, real estate is a known, but you can also 100% make it your own. You and I can be looking at the exact same property, and for you, it'll work. For me, it won't, or vice versa, because of the approach that we're taking. Even if you and I are both going after it as a rental property, your criteria is different than mine. The way that you run your business is different than mine. And then that's not to mention the fact that you can do short-term rentals, you can do flips, you can do wholesaling, you can do all these different strategies. And so one house can be taken down 20 different ways. So I think being able to take real estate, and I mean, real estate is I keep hearing a lot of people say the common man's way to wealth. And it's, you don't need a very specialized knowledge. You can gain the specialized knowledge by getting in the field and doing it. And it's not like you have to have a engineering degree to go do it. So I think that was a huge appeal to me, and I can 100% build my own brand, build my own business based on the idea of real estate and the real property that's tangible.
Okay. And so seeing that tangible real asset, that's something that's great. And then also too, I mean, success leaves clues, and so many people have been able to build successful lifestyles through real estate. And it seems like the fact that that's already the proof of concept, or the POC, is already there. So it's just a matter of how do you make that real estate, and how do you create the lifestyle that you're looking for. So maybe take us a little bit about kind of through the process that you went through when you said, okay, well, I know now I'd like to do real estate, but then how did you figure out which area? Because there's so many different areas where you can actually make yours in real estate, and you've gone for residential at this point and kind of in a certain area, but talk us through how you got to that point to where you are now.
This is a very interesting time to be talking to you about this, because it's a business, so everything kind of shifts. You have your strategy, your long-term strategy, and things develop over time. So your tactics that you take to get to that strategy aren't going to be the same. So if we had talked a couple of months ago, what I say would probably be a little bit different. But starting off, at least, I had a goal with real estate. It was kind of going to be a slow roll. I had the VA loan available to me, and so I essentially planned on either doing live-in flips or buying a house, living in it for a year, turning around, buying the next one, renting it out, using a combination of VA loan until I was out, then using FHA loan, any of those types, and then slowly down.
Actually, Patrick, because you made mention of it, because I think a lot of people, since we're still getting started, can you tell us what the VA loan is exactly and why that's important?
Yeah, it is. So the VA loan is for the specific qualifications are around the military and spouses, and it is arguably, and maybe even not arguably, the best loan product that there is for real estate. It's a 0% down, low rate, no PMI. So with a conventional mortgage or with something like a FHA loan, you're going to have some type of PMI or a fee, mortgage insurance. VA has none of that, and so it's a fantastic product for buying a house. I got into my house with $0. Actually, 2 houses that I've bought. With the VA loan, I have a total of $5,000 in down payments between the 2 of them.
Wow.
And it's an owner occupied house. So you have to actually live there, but you can buy up to a 4-unit house with that. So it's a fantastic product.
Fantastic. Thanks for helping us to understand what that is. And sorry, keep going on in the story there.
Yeah, no problem. So that was my initial idea, was doing that snowball. When it comes to business and entrepreneurial aspect, anything, I'm not incredibly patient. So I started that, and then I realized that that's going to take way too long. So I was doing a lot more research and kind of, I don't necessarily want to call it paralysis by analysis, but maybe a little bit. And then there was one distinct day. It was June 6th of 2019. I was at a customer appreciation event for the brokerage that sold me my house. And there was one couple that I talked to. There was no groundbreaking conversation, but I had that one moment with them where I just realized they had a couple properties and it wasn't a big deal to them. I was like, well, why am I not just taking action? So within a month, I had my first property under contract. It was a quad, a 4-plex. And then about 3 weeks after that, I had another 6 units under contract. It was a set of 3 duplexes. So as soon as I decided to really start taking action, I had 10 rental units under contract that I closed in September of last year. And so that was a starting point. Everything I wanted to do was to build cash flow. And so build cash flow in order to replace my income, in order to get out of my job and ultimately create financial freedom. Now, and that had been my goal for the past year. In probably July, that shifted a little bit as I realized that you can only do so much with the capital that you have. And it is very important to also build capital. So I've transitioned to that being the goal, but also using as the tactic to get there, using flips. And so I'm in the middle of my first flip right now. I actually close on another one 3 days from now, and have another one that I'm going to look at tonight that I'll hopefully have under contract tomorrow. So that's where the business has kind of shifted a little bit into building capital mode.
And so when you're in the building capital mode, but at the end of the day, you are very clear on what the end goal is. What you're doing is changing your tactics.
Yes.
Okay. And so I guess also too, having the military experience, military training, that's one of the things that I'm going to assume, and I would love for you to either to confirm or refute, that was one of the things that's actually helping you to continue to move forward towards your goals. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, you have the end goal that you're trying to get to, and so same thing with the military, with anything in life. You set down a path to get there. If you find that there's a better path or there's a better means to get there, it doesn't mean necessarily that the end goal changed, but that's what's so critical about having that goal in mind and knowing exactly what it is. Because if you don't have that, you can wander, aimlessly down a path thinking that it's the right path and not ever looking back up and saying, is this the right path for me?
Okay, awesome. So, understanding what the path is, where you want to go, and being able to continue to move forward, I guess is the important thing. Now, I know before we were talking a little bit about, and one of the things that we love to talk about here is being able to have the confidence to invest beyond your backyard. And so I know that this is also one of the endeavors that you have done in the past. And I'm always curious, because when you read so many books, the books always say, well, look at the place right down the street and invest there and make sure you can do this and you can do that. With my guest is kind of what was the reason that you decided that you would invest in a place that was beyond your backyard?
I think at the end of the day, the numbers made sense and it was a good investment. I did the analysis. So the properties that I have are in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I have a bunch of my properties are right around me in the Charlotte area, but I own a few out in Fayetteville, North Carolina as well. And at the end of the day, it's a great market. I did the research on the market. It's where Fort Bragg is. So there's a constant demand. And I got into that area as COVID was starting to pick up. And if there's, that kind of the quintessential area that you want to be in and the kind of market that you want to have, it's a guaranteed government income. And that's what the majority of the town is funded by. And so I did the research on it. I met some people out there, built a bit of a team, built a network out there. And with those keys of understanding the market and having the team, it just like anything in business, I think that's one of the biggest things. If I can get that message across to people is, if you're looking at real estate, treating it, it is truly, you can make it a business. You can make it a hobby if you're looking to, buy your nice $1,000 pair of shoes. And that's, you don't want to use your W-2 income for that. But if you want to actually treat it like a business and you want to create a true business out of it, you do what businesses do, and they look for where there's opportunity, they look for where there's a market, and they build the team and they build a business in order to go for it.
Which is phenomenal. I'm going to ask you to unpack that a little bit for us as well, right? Because you're talking about the team and you being able to do this. And I know I mentioned earlier on that one of your strengths that you talk about is really having an understanding of organization and process. So tell us about how that process and organization really helped you in terms of building the team in a place where you don't reside, like you're literally thousands of miles away.
Yeah, it's I think one of the things that I've realized a lot lately that's been very helpful in advancing my business as I started to get into that Fayetteville market is you hear a lot about treating your business like a hobby versus treating your business like a business. I think what I realized lately, especially since probably the beginning of the year, is that there's a step in between that a lot of people kind of get stuck in. And that's where I was for a while before I moved into the Fayetteville area. And that was where you're thinking about your business like a business, but you're treating it like a hobby. And so you think that for me, when you're treating it like a hobby, it's truly, you're looking to, like we were talking about, get that pair of shoes, or you're looking to take your wife out to dinner, or you're looking to go on that next vacation. And you're just looking for a couple of bucks of extra income that can help you do it. And that really just supplements you. It's a nice to have. When you get to the next step, you start thinking about it more like a business. And so you start thinking, it becomes a lot more serious. It's at the forefront. It's like I was talking about with traveling for consulting. I'm thinking about it every night. I'm working on it every night. But to an extent, I'm still treating it like a hobby because I'm not implementing the business systems. I'm not doing what a business owner does. I'm doing what a hobbyist does. And then the next step, kind of the third level, is when you're fully treating it like a business and also thinking about it like a business, where you're identifying the systems that you need to put in place. You're putting them in place. You're putting the teams in place. You're doing the things that a business does. So there's a very linear aspect to a real estate transaction when you're looking at the analysis, the acquisition, then you're looking at the operations and the management, and then you're looking at the exit with either the sale or the refinance or something like that. And so, from a linear perspective, you need to have each one of those roles filled. And you may be doing a lot of those roles in terms of like the analysis and the management and something like that. But you have to realize that, I think it's I don't know if it's in the E-Myth or if it's in one of those books that they talk about painting out your business structure. And you may have your name in every one of those spots right now, but you need to know what those roles are so that you can replace them. And that's when I started looking at the Fayetteville market. During the analysis part, I realized that there was an opportunity. There was more supply, a little bit more supply there than directly around Charlotte. There was good opportunity. And then I realized that if I could where I couldn't replicate myself personally and I couldn't put myself out there, where I could fill those holes and I could do what a business does and quote unquote, hire the right people, be it inspectors, be it property managers, realtors, any of that. I can bring those guys on the team. Now I can I am truly treating it like a business now, and I've got systems in place in order to do that. So I think that's been just that realization of those steps and then taking action towards those steps has been a huge catalyst for me in the past couple of months.
Okay. And having that catalyst to help propel you and being able to take that step. And clearly I'm listening to you, and I can, right. I work with a lot of people that are in big four, accounting firms, I guess what we call them. Right. And so, and then I'm also thinking about your military experience and just how much these different experiences must be helping you in the formulation of your plans and your processes to be able to continue to advance forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to, as I get ready to leave my job, I'm still every day, I'm looking at the things that I'm doing in my job. And I work right now. I transitioned out of the big four and I work at a bank and working in the credit card risk area. Mm-hmm. And just, I try to tune in, and I would encourage any of the listeners who are working a full-time job and who have a very good job, learn from it. Take what you have at that job and take the business processes that you see, and the job that you're at that is able to pay you a very good salary like mine does, they do not get to where they are by having just randomly pieced together processes and activities that suddenly created a multi-million or multi-billion-dollar company. That's not how it works. They have a very specific set of activities that they do. And so if you can take a look at that and look at everything that you do in your job and use that as a learning point for what you can apply to your business, there's no limit to what you can learn. And it also, you can do the investing on the side. You can truly still, whether you're treating it like a hobby or you're treating it like a business or anywhere in between, you can still be learning and take the time that you have in your job, and it can be used to also benefit your business if you're paying attention to those different indicators.
Love that. And being able to take take the opportunity that you're given, make sure that you are maximizing the opportunity in your corporate role, and at the same time leverage a lot of those skills so that you can have your business running and functioning and operating all cylinders as quickly as possible. So love that. Patrick, one of the things also too, just as we get ready to kind of wrap things up here, is I know giving back to you is something giving back is something that's very important to you. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that aspect of giving back, some of the different things that you do, and why that has been such a such a big part of what it is that you do?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways you can do it, and a lot of people think that you have to. It's at the point of success where you have buku bucks and you can throw money all over the place, and that's the point where you can really start giving back. And you can, while you certainly should once you get there, you can also do it along the way. And so whether that's the people that you work with, and whether it's the contractors that you employ and helping them out, working with them. It's truly also at the same time how you treat your tenants. As an example, if you're a landlord or a property manager or anything along those lines, it's how you treat your clients. It's how you treat tenants. It's how you treat the community that you serve. You don't want to be the investor that goes into a community and tears it down for your own profit, or that goes in and makes everything as cheaply as possible that's going to break for the next guy, but you made your buck, so you move on. I think you need to have an openness and an understanding of really what's around you, and have a goal, and realize that the community that you have, in a number of different ways, whether it's altruistically or whether it's even just from a selfish business standpoint, even if that's who you are and you don't care about any type of altruistic anything, which is questionable. And I don't think there's a ton of people that are like that in our industry necessarily, but there's some. But even them, you still have, it's a small world, small community, and what goes around comes around. So if you stay like that, you're not going to last very long. At the end of the day, there's nothing more rewarding than being able to go into a community and see one of the first properties that I bought, the quad, I was out there doing some work, replacing a couple of things and really upfitting everything. And it had been run down for years, probably 10 or 20 years. And the neighbor that owns a business, he walked up to me while I was out there and just said, "Thank you." He said, "This place has been a mess. And as a mess, it leads to a bunch of other second and third order effects. So happy to see you here actually helping turn the neighborhood around and make this a good place." And that was everything in that moment, just to hear that. So
no, you gotta love being able to get that type of input, that type of feedback. And when you're doing the right things, these types of comments and gestures quite frequently come back. So
yeah.
Look, Patrick, there's a couple of things I'd like to keep going forever, but we've gotten to the point of the show where it's called the Going Long Final Three. But the thing about the Going Long Final Three, Patrick, is I never ask them unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you them. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, fantastic. So here we go.
Has anybody ever said no?
Not yet.
Okay.
I guess that's what keeps it fun.
Yeah, exactly.
We're kind of on the edge, No, so listen. So with me being here in Barcelona, and you ask you in the beginning, kind of where you are in the States, I always like to bring it back this way. And so, would you help me understand, or help us understand, what is your favorite European city, either that you visited or you still have on your bucket list?
So, in going with the first question and kind of breaking the rules a little bit, I have to say two. One, Split, I spent time in. And I loved Split, Croatia. Okay. And I definitely want to go back there. I spent probably 5 or 6 days. I have a buddy that's getting married there. Yep. Absolutely gorgeous. Loved it. But then Rome, I was only there for a day. So I absolutely have to go back. Rome wasn't built in a day, and you definitely can't see Rome in a day. So I have to go back there too. But Split was absolutely incredible.
All right, so Split.
Sorry for breaking the rules.
No, that's okay. That's all right. We'll let you away with it this time. So Split it is. All right. So I guess that brings us to question number 2, which is, so look, Patrick, as any successful entrepreneur, business owner, investor, I'm sure you've probably only made one mistake along the way, only one. Or if it's been more than just that, one. Well, okay. Yeah. Well, if there's only been one, been more than one, just think about one. So more than, I guess, the mistake that was made, could you share what the lesson that you learned with the hopes that maybe someone else doesn't have to pay 100% full price for the same mistake?
Yeah. I think going back to the treating it like a business, kind of that is the theme, I guess. You have business expenses, and you have to be prepared to spend a little bit of money and put a little bit of money into even just leaving aside any type of operational or marketing or anything like that, just into the acquisition of a property. And so money that you spend on the due diligence for a house, I think that's one of the big lessons that I've learned now a couple times. So shame on me, but the money that you spend to get a trade out there, to get an inspector out there, to get a structural engineer out there, yes, you have to pay for it ahead of time. And yes, that can hurt, especially if you don't close on the property. But also if you don't close on the property because you spent money on those trades, that means that saved you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. The flip that I'm doing right now, I ended up having a termite problem, and that termite problem ended up costing me an additional $7,500. I also ended up having an electrical problem, and that unforeseen electrical problem cost me another $8,500. So between those two mistakes that I made, cost me $16,000 on this property alone. I could have spent a couple $100 up front and saved myself that hassle. So don't be afraid. Businesses spend money on the things that are important to them and that help them make the right decisions. And something that helps you make the right decision is getting the proper inspections, doing the proper due diligence, getting the proper people, the proper experts to look at what you're about to purchase. So I think that's definitely a mistake, but also a huge, very important lesson that I'm glad that I learned, I guess.
Well, I guess you will probably make sure that you have the inspections, and just, if I can share one thing, make sure that you read the inspections. And we'll talk about why I know that in another moment. But so thank you for sharing that. So so treat it like a business, and don't be afraid to make the necessary expenses. And so I guess just to wrap things up, and would really love to know, we're always here to want to feed our minds, things like that. What book would you recommend?
I think there's, like we talked about before, once you start getting into this, there's so many of them that are good. So it's very, very difficult to pick one in particular. I think one of the biggest ones that made an enormous impact on my life it's called The Slight Edge. It's very similar to, have you heard of it?
No. The Slight Edge.
Have you read The Compound Effect?
Not yet, but it is on my list.
Okay. So The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy is very similar, but it goes into a little bit more broad and it's a little bit more well-known. The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, it dives very specifically into and beats into your head the idea that it's the little things that you do on a daily basis that compound and that really make the difference between success and failure. So you're not in shape, or you're not fat because you went to the gym one day, or you didn't go to the gym one day, or because you ate a cheeseburger one day, or because you didn't eat a cheeseburger the next day. It's because you made decisions over the course of your life, over the course of X number of days. And those little decisions that were seemingly innocuous, meaningless decisions, that's what made the difference for you. So for me, one of the things that he highlighted in that book was just reading. And if you read 10 pages a day, that means 365 days, 3,650 pages in a year. You're reading 10, 20 books, and that just absolutely changes your mind. So that book was incredibly powerful to me and was kind of the catalyst to get my mind right and get business started and move ultimately into where I am now.
All right. Awesome. So we'll include the Slight Edge in the show notes as well. So wow. And Patrick, we've gone through a lot, man. We've talked about everything from you at 10 to 11. I know we talked about it earlier, right? With the CDs, and then getting a lot of inspiration from your mother. Then afterwards, making sure that once you got into the military service, that you also, you had some Big Four experience, and along the way, you've been able to not only invest and start to build a business where you are, you've invested well beyond your backyard in different states. And you have also come to a very important point in your life where it's about making the decision to move on and focus your 100% of your energy and activity and resources in this real estate world and walking away from the corporate. So, I'm sure that there are so many people that are thinking, wow, you know what? I've gained so much inspiration from Patrick's story. I want to understand more about how he did this or what he's thinking about next. And so because of that, look, I would love if you could help others understand what is the best way to get in touch or to establish some contact with you, Patrick.
Yeah, you can reach out anytime via email, patrick@investdgp.com. It's DGP. Usually it gets switched around if someone is there's Instagram, InvestDGP, my website, www.investdgp.com, Facebook, Patrick Menefee, and I think LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, just Patrick Menefee.
All right, perfect, Patrick. And we're going to include every single one of those ways to contact you in the show notes. So make sure if you were writing things down and you haven't, don't worry, they're on whatever device you're on, and you can see us either on our YouTube channel or any of the video channels or any of your favorite podcast channels. So listen, Patrick, thank you so much for taking the time to share with me and the rest of the Going Long audience, sharing your story. And I really want to say thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Billy. I really appreciate the opportunity. Really enjoyed talking to you.
All right, awesome. And so once again, for the Going Long audience, I want to thank you also for listening to the words of wisdom that Patrick was sharing, his experience, his knowledge, his know-how. And you know what, because of that, I'm going to ask you also too, just go ahead and share today's episode with at least 2 to 3 other people. I know you know someone who's going to really benefit from Patrick's story today. And then also too, Patrick and I would really love to have your review. Let us know what you liked about today's episode. Let us know what you would have liked to hear, or also how, when you're following up with Patrick, what is the right thing for you to start getting into the next conversation. So, and also too, if you want to leave us a 5-star review, feel free to do that. And until then, I'm going to go ahead and wish you a wonderful day. Go out and make it a great day, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? You know, when I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.